Is the coffee ready yet?
Very soon. You hate to start a Sunday morning without enough coffee.
Hey, welcome to the Scuttlebutt. I'm Rich Mellon.
And I'm Sandy. And for those of you that have seen the podcast before, or maybe just listened to it, we are in our cabin out on the registered fur management area in northern Alberta. And this is our first weekend of the season.
Yeah, we're out trapping. This is for season 11. We kind of had in our previous podcast, we talked about how the year ran away on us. We had so many things we were doing, and we're trying to get caught up here before we start moving forward in current time. And we're just hitting the high spots, all the high points in that year's time. And one of them was going to a shooting school. Snowy Mountain puts on a shooting school in Montana. Hamilton,
Snowy
Montana.
Mountain Rifles.
Snowy Mountain Rifles, that's right. Hey, buddy. Puts on a shooting school there, and it's in Hamilton, Montana, which is probably most famous for being like 5 miles north of where the Dutton Ranch is for the
or at least
Yellowstone.
The landscape of the Dutton Ranch.
For Yellowstone. Probably, I'm not sure everybody's aware, but Sandy and I have hunted and fished a little bit of the world, and we enjoy hunting. It's always been a spectacular event for us, and it's kind of funny how the hierarchy of outdoor people go. It's like this big pyramid, and you have this great, huge base of the pyramid. That's everybody who hikes outdoors, bikes outdoors, walks, hunts, fishes, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. The next level up are the people that fish, and they're the consumptive users of the outdoors. So they're fishermen, they're hunters, they're trappers, and then it goes up again, and now you just got hunters and trappers there. Finally get to the very peak of it, and you're talking about trappers. There's the least amount of us, but we fit into everything that the rest of the pyramid down below. So it comes as no surprise, though, that we enjoy the other parts of the outdoors, the hunting and the fishing and that sort of thing. We have spent a lot of time volunteering time with organizations.
Yes, many.
You have been the treasurer for the Alberta Conservation Association.
Well, I've been a member of the board for 8 years,
yes.
And the treasurer for 7. And before that, we were involved with the local fish and game club.
Yeah. Explain. Just give me a sec here and explain what the ACA does. People may not understand, because when you talk about the Alberta Fish and Game Association, it is minuscule.
Obviously.
It is minuscule in comparison to what the ACA is.
Yeah. So the ACA is a conservation organization, but it's made up of member groups that cover the landscape of consumptive users and even those that aren't consumptive, when I think of Nature Alberta and some of the folks that belong to that organization. But we collect levy fees from fishing licenses and hunting licenses, and that all goes into conservation, which takes various different forms. It takes the form of land purchases for habitat protection. It takes the form of studies, biological studies. The whole organization has a wealth of biologists that are involved and across the landscape of wild animals. So it protects the places and the things in Alberta.
Also, I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar a year business, and it protects Alberta's access and quality of experience when it comes to hunting and fishing, and that it's very, very important. And trapping, it's a very important organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And in places in the province that have more deeded land than they have crown land, that's where a lot of land purchases come into play for people who want to enjoy the wild places in Alberta that maybe haven't been part of what's been readily available for use by the average Albertan.
They do fish ponds. They do kids can catch events. They stock trout in various fish ponds, various lakes. They do aeration because we have very long winters here, and fish will die in a pond because you don't have the ability for the wind to stir the air and keep oxygen in it. It stratifies rotting vegetation on the bottom. On and on it goes. I've sat on the board as well, so I've heard all of this stuff. They also do pheasant releases for the bird hunters and that, because pheasants are not native in Alberta, and pheasants don't have a great success rate in here for making it through the winters. Once again, they're rather tough. Very, very important organization. Sandi has sat on this as the treasurer for a long time. I was on the board as a representative of Wild Sheep Alberta, like Wild Sheep Foundation of Alberta, which is one of the founding members of the parent organization of the ACA. We've also we've volunteered a lot of time.
Yes.
In various conservation groups and organizations. We've done things like go to Reno.
Yes.
To the sheep show, the big sheep show in Reno. We've been there. In the last year, we were also to Nashville, Tennessee for the SCI.
Safari Club International, for those of you who don't follow that kind of thing. It's a huge, primarily hunting convention, but there's all kinds of things that go on there, all kinds of different people that show up, lots of celebrities show up. There was big concerts there, but the big draw this year was in Nashville. Well, it's the second year in a row that it's been in Nashville, but what a town that is. Wow. I think we could probably do a little portrayal of Nashville, but
not really, because we never even got to the Grand Ole Opry.
Well, no.
Everybody think about Nashville and talk about the Grand Ole Opry. We made it down Broad Street.
Broadway, yeah.
Broadway, yeah.
The convention center was 2 blocks south of where our hotel was, and Broadway was a block and a half east.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun down there.
Broadway has like 170 some bars in it.
Yeah, everyone with an individual band in it, and that included the different bars in one building. There could be 4 bars in a building,
or 5, yeah, including the roof, and
they would have a different band on every floor, and the place was just jumping. I've never seen anything like it.
And the most incredibly talented artists that you've never heard of.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just astounded. One of the things I thought was really cool, and which I think is one of those things that makes the U.S. so great, is you either make it or you don't. There's no welfare involved in it, so to speak. There's no cover charges to any of these bars. Yeah. The bands aren't paid. You can give them a tip. $20 or whatever you want, and request a song, and they do it. That's how they make their living.
Or not. You don't have to request a song. You can just appreciate the music.
Just give them a tip.
I think we have to talk about how, getting there, right?
Oh!
I had booked it. So I know it kind of goes into the negativity and stuff again, but we'll save the nonsense, but, suffice to say, flights got canceled, had to be rerouted. It cost us extra money, and we got there the day that we wanted to get there, but later in the afternoon, and we were absolutely flattened by the travel, because we drove to Edmonton, got on and that's 4 hours from where we live, by the way. Drove to the airport in Edmonton, got on a plane.
Got to tell a story, though. The weather was too bad for the plane to fly to Grand Prairie from Edmonton and land. But we drove through it.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Have us a coffee there, will you? It's done gurgling. So we on our way to Edmonton, she goes to add in our seats and that, to pre-register so things are quicker.
Well, I had our seats already. It was just that we were just getting our boarding passes.
Yeah, and they canceled the flight on us while we're driving to Edmonton.
Yeah.
Long story short, it ended up, it was with Air Canada, and travel is so much fun. Traveling isn't.
Yeah.
Like flying in the air
sometimes
is just terrible.
Have to do it for the story. So anyway, we drove to Edmonton. We gotten everything kind of settled by the time we got there. We got on a red-eye flight, which we were planning on taking anyway, but we were supposed to go from Edmonton to Toronto to Nashville and get there at 9:30 in the morning, which was perfect. Instead, we went Edmonton,
Toronto, Montreal.
Edmonton, Montreal, Chicago, and then to Nashville. So it took us longer, but we got there. We were a little bagged by 3:30 in the afternoon when we finally got to our hotel. I think, well, actually it was about 4 o'clock. I think we got to the hotel. But some good friends of ours were coming in a little later, and we thought, well, if we have a nap, we're probably not going to be at our best. So instead we went to the convention center and we got registered instead of being in a line of, because there are thousands of people that go to this thing.
If you've never been to SCI, you should go.
Yeah.
It is one of those experiences. Yeah.
So anyway, we did that. Got back to the hotel, kind of put our stuff away, hung up our clothes, all that kind of good stuff. And then we wandered down to Broadway because we had no idea. We
heard that food was really good.
Yeah,
so we
had no idea about what Broadway was. You just kind of got to get there. So we went to a little place that had 2 bars on the same floor and Rippies, and we had ribs, and we met a few more people that we knew from the Edmonton area.
Yep.
And then our friends joined us. Who had an entirely different experience getting there.
Yeah.
They got on the plane in Calgary, went to Atlanta, and then over to Nashville, and they were refreshed.
Yeah.
And we were a little bagged. So anyway,
we'd been up like 40 hours at that moment.
Well, no, not yet then, but it was close. Anyway,
34.
we went to we went down the street. We just kind of what's happening, right? So we get down the street and we get to Kid Rock's bar. And we go in there, and who should we meet but probably everyone from Canada who was attending the SCI show.
Here's the thing that I got to point out, though, is that SCI is such a big thing that Nashville didn't know what was going on. Like, I mean, we're talking to the entertainers and all that and saying, where are you people from? Why? Yes, last week was dead, and this week it's exploded. And the mayor knows so much about what SCI brought to his town that it was supposed to be the last year that it was going to be in Nashville. It was going to like Cincinnati after that. And he went around and bought up the contracts. It's staying in Nashville for the next 10 years. He's not on his watch.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's how big a deal that it was. And of course, we meet a lot of fellow Canadians and people that we know through industry and all that kind of stuff.
And we just had a whale of a good time. Standing room only. Just no other way to do it. I'm sure the fire codes were adhered to for standing room only.
Oh, are you kidding? But you know what? They don't.
But it was fun.
You just don't see a party like that in Canada. They're way too uptight here.
Yeah.
Way too.
Well, there's
by 8 o'clock at night, they have about 20 police cars lining Broadway, and their lights are all flashing. And if somebody's causing a problem, the bouncer just puts his flashlight.
And it's a blue light.
Yeah. Just puts it on this person, and the police go and pack them off and gone. But everybody has fun. You know, it's. I thought, what a better way to do it. I really enjoyed that. But we went and was John Stone. Shout out to John Stone. Was singing when we got into Kid Rock's, and then he was off. I think at 10 o'clock, right?
He was off at 9:30, and he said, but by that time, you know, we're starting to feel a little droopy. I'd worked all day, so we were up at our regular time at 6 a.m. on the day before we left, or whatever. I can't even put it all together now. But anyway, John leaves the stage and somebody else is setting up, and Richard looks at me and says, we've been up for 40 hours now. Maybe we should go back to the hotel. And I started looking around at the next band, because John had said, that's all for me tonight. I'll be here whenever his schedule was. But this next band coming up, you should stick around because they're pretty good. So we started looking around, and it was like a 70s hair band that was setting up there.
They called themselves Cowboys and Hippies.
Yep. And I said to Richard, no, I don't think so. I think we should stay and just see what's happening. Well, it was hours later when we finally tootled up the hill to our hotel.
Do you remember, though, their very first song?
Oh, yeah.
These 20-some-year-old kids up there with long hair and everything, and they blasting out a 50-year-old, Paradise City, Guns N' Roses, a 50-year-old song at a bunch of 65-year-olds. And everybody was rocking and having a good time. and I mean, John was fantastic too.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Very talented. All these people that you've never even heard of.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. You know, you go home and tell people, if you see this person, you should sit in on their stuff.
You should
right?
sit in. Yeah, and the great thing about John was he talked about what he'd done that day, and he'd gone out and caught a mess of crappies.
Yeah.
And it's like, yep, you're one of us.
Yeah.
And he felt, I think, like he was one of the SCI crowd. But every bar that we went into, for the rest of the few days that we were there, it was like shout out to SCI in the house, and the whole place just stood on its head. You know, it was really fun.
And there are very many different places. We were in Jason Aldean's bar, and it was more kind of classic country.
Yeah.
There was
a young gal from Abbotsford.
Yeah, Abbotsford, BC was singing there. We were at the Fish Market Company or something like that. And that
was way at the end of Broadway.
That was bluegrass. Yeah, just not my thing. And
really, I mean, they were good. But...
No, they were all there was just everything you ever dreamed about. We didn't get over to Doc Holiday's. We didn't get over to that one.
No, but we
did see a lot of bars.
We went to a few that were just off the strip a little bit, off the Broadway strip. Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Do you know what I found really interesting, though, is that you and I don't drink.
No.
But I do enjoy like a Corona non-alcoholic beer. It tastes like beer. But we can get that anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the case in Canada. Like,
No.
I mean, to get a non-alcoholic bottle of beer in a bar just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I guess they cater to, what the crowd's buying. And
a lot of young people are going away from alcohol now, and they just want to go out and have the experience and be able to remember it the next day.
I praised the sweet baby Jesus the next morning that I hadn't had a drink because
it was enough to be
40 some hours without. And at our age, I mean, that's.
Careful now. Don't be talking that way.
Hey, 9:30 is the new midnight at my age. And we were up to 2 a.m. or something. It was 40 some hours, and it
was a lot of fun. It was definitely something that we want to go back. And there's some friends of ours from the area that would love to go. So I think once I get my passport renewed, that's job number one when I get home. Just realized my passport expires in January.
Yeah, you better get that done.
Better get that on the go. But yeah, we like Richard said, we've been involved on a volunteer basis with a lot of different organizations over the years. And
because we hunt and fish.
And we trap.
And I've been an outdoor writer for many, many, many years. Is there another many in there? I even wrote cartridge introductions for Burger Bullet's very first reloading manual. Worked with the fine people at Hornady and Osler, and I've done a lot of hunting, a lot of shooting. I was probably one of the first to really get serious into long-range systems, and I don't mean just shooting them, but I mean putting it all together with the rangefinder and the rifle and the optics with either the turret and the ballistic reticles and those kind. It's a system, and you have to. Trigger time is the only way that you get good at it, but I've always been afraid because when you live way up in the north, you're in the world's smallest bubble. Wouldn't even be called a bubble because it was a bubble of one, me. So I mean, I always did my research in that, but in my formative years when I started shooting, I mean, there wasn't no such thing as the internet or any of that kind of stuff. So I was pretty sure that I had developed a whole bunch of bad habits, and whenever I have a chance to go to a shooting school, I really like to go. That is, I want to learn what I've done wrong and combat against it. So Snow Mountain Rifles was working with Wild Sheep Foundation Alberta, which they were helping us out with a raffle, a rifle for a raffle, and they actually auctioned it, didn't it? I think it was a 7 PRC of theirs, and it was their Alpine unit. It went for $14,000.
Yeah.
Did really well for us, and it's a spectacular rifle. But I've been to others. I went to the FTW in Texas, near San Antonio. But one of the things, different places I've been, you could either bring your own rifle and, they help you shoot with that, or you could rent one of theirs or whatever. What they did at Snowy was everybody had a rifle and it was assigned to them, and you were the only one that shot that rifle for the next 3 days. And I found that fascinating. So all the rifles were identical. They were all in 6.5 Creed, and they all had identical barrels, identical. The only difference was you could either use a Night Force scope or a Zeiss scope. Of course, I picked the Zeiss because I've been with Zeiss for 30 years. It was interesting, and I really liked the fact that they supplied a perfect rifle, one that you knew that the gear was solid, because lots of times when you go to these other situations where you bring your own rifle, there's way too much time spent trying to fix somebody's rifle, and that's the wrong way to go about it. I think that's the gear has to be taken care of, and they supplied the gear, they supplied the ammunition, and away we went. It was really neat. One of the people in my class was a lady who had shot right-handed until she lost eyesight in her right eye. And so she literally on day one took her first shot left-handed using her left eye. By the third day, I was the first person to ring the 1,500-yard gong, and she was the second. So while I felt really proud of what I'd done, it was spectacular what this lady had done.
Yeah.
And she 2 days before she shot for the first time left-handed, and then she rings a 1,500-yard gong. It was good. There was so much that the instructors were very interesting, very, very worthwhile. The gear was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. I might go back. They have an advanced course, and I don't know what advanced is. We start at 1,500 and go to 3,000. I don't know. But it was very worthwhile. If you're going to push the limit, you got to get rid of the Kentucky holdover idea. When I was a kid, I can remember when I first started knowing that there was more beyond open sights and sub 100-yard shots. So the first time I put a scope on my rifle, the very next week I sighted it 200 yards. And people were, oh, that's stupid, you're going to be too high at 100. Well, not really. Even though I was shooting a 308, I was only 1.5 inches high at 100 yards, which is insignificant because most times we're shooting offhand, right? And if you can hold 1.5 inch group at 100 yards offhand, you're a pretty spectacular offhand shot. But when the people that mocked me at the gun range, I had to pull the old 100-foot Stanley tape there, 6 times to get out to 200 yards. And it was like, whoa. A lot of their 400-yard shots had been 200 or less. They I don't know how many of them say, are you sure? Are you sure?
People can't judge distance.
No.
We've known that for many, many, many
No,
years.
Even professionals can't judge distance. What's like professional snipers are wrong like 20% of the time at anything over 200 yards. It's just stupid. So anyway, I started with that, and I was probably the first person to shoot a 200-yard zero. And to make people understand why I did that, they said, well, if I shoot a 100-yard zero, then I'd be 1.5 inches low at 200. No, it's not true. You'd be actually about 3 inches low, double the distance. But if I have a 200-yard zero, 1.5 inches high at 100, and I might be 3 inches low at 300, which still puts me in that
Kill zone
point. My point of aim where I don't have to compensate whatsoever to drop into the kill zone, and trying to make them understand how important that was, where they were always just adding a little bit of Kentucky windage. Well, that's the kind of thing that started me on my path towards this, and why these shooting schools and learning the actual physics and the actual reality and how to use the gear became so important. Long range shooting can get some terrible press, deservedly so, but the same thing is a lot of people shooting 100 yards with a bow or 60 yards with a bow. Unless you know exactly what you're doing, you never take that shot unless it's 100%, or unless you are 100%. I've never squeezed a trigger where I thought it was 90% shot. I always was 100%. It was going to happen. And then it doesn't always. I mean, stuff can still go wrong. So that was a lot of fun. And you had some fun traveling around in Montana while I was off shooting in the mountains.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a ton of hot springs down in Montana, so I was on a quest to find hot springs. But I also went to a couple local museums and did a few other things like that. And then we went over and around a mountain and to have dinner with Randy Newberg, who's a very good friend of ours,
Yes.
and maybe a name that you guys know now, but maybe what you don't know is when we first started the TV show, we were based in, our LLC was based in Wyoming, and Randy was our accountant.
Yes. He blames us for getting him into TV.
So anyway, Randy's a very good friend, has been for many years.
Yes, it was very enjoyable. And we drove around the mountains through was it Beaver Kill Pass or whatever, and met him in the town of Anaconda.
Yeah, and had dinner there, and a very, very nice visit. So there's lots that came along with that, but we also met a couple. He was in your shooting class.
He's from California.
They had recently relocated to Montana, to Hamilton specifically, from California, and had sold their company and whatnot. And then
his son had actually taken it over.
Right, yeah. But nevertheless, they now lived in Montana, and he said they faced a fair bit of what would you call it? Hesitancy or suspicion, I guess.
Downright suspicion.
From Montanans, because they thought they were just another bunch of liberals that were moving on to Montana to bring their California politics with them, and it couldn't have been further from the truth. These were probably some of the most down-to-earth, wonderful conservative people that we've ever met. So we had dinner with them one night and really enjoyed their company.
Well, he said we moved here to get away from the politics and the taxation and everything in California. He says, we're not bringing it with us. We moved away from it. And he says, but I'm not getting a lot of trust yet. And
Anyway.
I can't blame him, because what places like Montana and Wyoming and Alberta have is we have that independence and we have that
entrepreneurial spirit. And
we're basically conservatives, and we enjoy a lot of freedoms in that. And freedom is something that's being lost in places like California.
And here we are, 2 days before the 2024 presidential election, and aren't things heating up? So anyway,
well, let's not even get into that one.
No, we can't go there. But
as Canadians, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. As Canadians, Harris would be the best for us because she's so wishy-washy. We'll get whatever we want. Trump would be the worst for us, but I'd like to see Trump elected.
Yeah,
I think he's the last hope for the free world, but.
There'd be a lot of people that would disagree, but regardless of that, we don't have anything to connect us with it, other than a lot of our friends who are Americans, and a lot of the people who watch our show and listen to our podcasts are Americans, and we truly pray for all of you, because this is going to be an interesting time in history.
Well, God willing, we will have back a decent government within the next year. Yeah. Our conservatives are vastly leading the liberals, and we'll get rid of Trudeau, and it can't happen soon enough.
It's true. But on to other things. What was the next thing on your agenda?
Well, once we got back from it, I kind of wanted to segue from the shooting school to we're at back home. And this is in August. And I think you've probably met Winston by now, our new GSP. He's what, 3 now?
He'll be 4 in January.
Wow.
And did you say we're in August?
This was in August.
Oh, what was in August?
What I'm about to talk about.
Oh, okay. You lost me.
You should obviously be listening more carefully. But she says I never listen to her. Anyway, I was, I don't know, it was a Saturday, Sunday morning? What was it? Something like that. Anyway, I'm showering and I'm shaving. So I'm out, I've got everything all lathered up, and that means I shave everything. And all of a sudden I hear her yelling for Winston. keep shaving. And it's like, oh my God. And I was like, and then she starts screaming, they've got him. I go running out.
In his all-togetherness.
The day I was born, except for extra shaving cream.
Well, you did have a T-shirt on.
and I grab a hold of the 17 Hornet, I guess, is what I grab a hold of.
So what had happened was we live on a quarter section out in the country. There's obviously lots of wild animals around, but there were some coyotes out there, and apparently a couple of older ones were trying to teach one of the younger ones how to hunt, and Winston was just too much puppy, and he really thought those dogs wanted to play.
Yeah.
So he crossed the fence into the neighbor's property. It's just a barbed wire fence where the cattle are kept at certain times of the year. And there weren't any cattle out there at this particular time. But anyway, he disappeared over a little knoll in the hill, and I was calling for him. He didn't have his collar on. And this guy, our brown guy, came back right away because he could hear the panic in my voice, and Winston just was too busy trying to make friends, I guess. So
yeah.
The next time I saw him, there was a coyote chasing him, and Winston still thought they were having fun because he hadn't turned the jets on yet. And
he's long-legged galoot, and he could outrun all 9 of them put together.
Yeah, but there was one coyote that was right on his heels, which is when I started screaming. And so Richard came out, grabbed this 17 Hornet. And
jump out on the back deck, and I can't lean on the railing because then I can't see over this little knoll. So the only thing I can do is, it's August, so the snow shovel is still there.
Because we get snow any time of the year. We're always
I grabbed
prepared.
the snow shovel and I used it as a monopod. And I rested the 17 on it, and all I got is like this. Winston is stopped, and the coyotes are stopped. They're kind of 3 around him. The one behind him that Winston isn't watching, and I get it there. It was 200-yard shot. I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
I was thinking, breathe, squeeze, but I had to shoot past my own dog, which was one thing. But it was over, and Winston come running back, and the other 2 disappeared.
The 2 that we saw disappeared. There might have been more. We don't know.
Whenever we tell this story, it's like it alters between people say, "Please tell me you have a picture of him doing that," and others say, "Please God, don't have a picture."
Anyway,
standing there in my nakedness, shooting, half shaved, shooting a coyote. Only in Alberta, only in our life.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the funny stories that can happen out there. Could have ended a whole lot differently for our dog.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were lucky, and he pays a lot more attention now.
Yeah, he does. But he's a puppy. He's a dog, and when he meets another dog, they're playing. They don't understand. There's no such thing as play in that wild animal's life.
No.
They eat.
Yeah.
And that's what they were trying to do was try to cut him out so that as soon as they get to be 2-3 of them, then that gets to be a problem.
Yeah.
Because he can't defend against one-on-one. He would defend against any of them. Although he's tender-hearted, I'm not sure.
He's a mild-mannered dog. This guy right here, our big man Gunner, he'd give him a licking. But he's just built a little different.
Yep.
He's, I don't know, he's very protectionist. Even in the mornings when I'm getting ready for work, I'm in the bathroom, doing my hair or makeup or whatever, and he posts himself outside the bathroom door facing outward.
Yep.
Because he wants to know what's coming. And that's in a house full of friendlies. So I don't know what he would do if...
But look at when you go check your trap line and you got a cat in the snare.
Oh,
he'll get between you and push against you, between you and that cat.
And the cat's dead.
And the cat's dead, but he leans right, and she was on her knees and trying to show me this cat, and he got between it, and he pushes right against her, like he leans right, and she slips over, falls on her bum. She says, "He pushed me over." Didn't want her to have anything to do with it. It's like he protects the mama.
Yeah. He's a good boy.
One thing that we've done is, and that's probably helped collect a lot more things like coyotes and that, is we've expanded our homesteading.
That's correct. Yeah. That's something that we probably don't talk enough about, but it really got us thinking when COVID happened. And I mean, COVID is one of those 4-letter words now, but
5.
well, whatever. But smart ass.
Yeah, how do you pedantic?
Yeah. Anyway, the availability of food, and then when a lot of the meat plants and things like that got shut down because somebody got COVID, and it either did or could affect everybody else on a shift or wherever, and they just shut it down. And suddenly there isn't meat on the grocery shelves or what have you. So that was one thing. Then we started hearing about things like chicken getting pumped full of water, and that what you were buying was primarily water, and it would shrink down to nothing
That's true.
in a frying pan situation, or the meat glue that they talk about. And I don't know that we've ever experienced that, but it's just one of those things that gives you pause and makes you think about where it is your food comes from and how you can control that.
Well, I think part of it was, though, is when we started out in life together, the food supply was safe, and there was lots of it.
Well, it was generally
not
locally sourced.
That's what I'm trying. That's where I was going, was that it was not supplied by these giant conglomerates where the only thing that was concerned them was the dollar. Mm-hmm. So. And as the years go on, your life gets busy with kids and careers and everything else, and you have less time for what you used to do all the time.
Yeah.
Now we're back at the point of our life where COVID opened everybody's eyes, how scary the world is there. You start looking at you just read a book by Casey Means.
Yes.
And the additives and the food colorings and all that they put into food that's not safe. That shouldn't even be legal. Matter of fact, a lot of it isn't legal in Canada, but still legal in the U.S. And
it's definitely not legal in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, Europe specifically.
Yeah. When you start back into doing the homesteading and keeping of birds, it's all work. There's no question there's work, but I look at it like this: is if I don't get done doing my chores till 8:00 at night or whatever, that's just less time of me looking at working on the computer or looking at the TV or whatever, right? Yeah. It's activity is good for me. I mean, activity is good for everybody, and it helps keep you conditioned, keeps you younger, and Lord knows I could do with some youth.
We can do with some younger.
Thanks, babe.
No, I said we, not you. But
speaking of younger, though, you're going to see a lot more about both on Trapping Inc. about our homesteading and all that, and you're going to see probably a second TV show come from us. A little bit of a spoiler here. Younger. Talking about younger. Your eyes, buying a little youth.
Oh, buying a little youth. I wondered where he was going with this. So Dr. Daniel Senecal is a good friend of ours, and we've had many enjoyable visits and just being with him and his wife, Yanette. And
they're South Africans.
They are South Africans, and he's very much from a hunting culture, and so that's kind of how we gravitated towards a friendship.
Which is kind of different than in North America, where not many skilled, highly trained people like doctors that hunt. Where everybody in South Africa does. Yeah.
It's just part of how they were raised. But anyway, Dr. Senecal had a clinic in Grand Prairie, and that's how I got to know him. And then, we started kind of hanging out and doing stuff together. Then he bought the Gimbal Eye Clinic in Edmonton, and moved his practice to Edmonton. Has now changed the name of the company to Vision Max, and moved it to a new building just off of Ellerslie Road, right?
Yeah.
In Southeast Edmonton. So Anyway, we've been talking a lot about when he was here in Grand Prairie, he worked specifically for Alberta Health Services, doing a lot of cataract surgeries, which is the replacement of a lens in the eye. And he also did a lot of laser surgeries.
What cataracts are is the lens in your eye is mostly protein. Okay, and it's behind the cornea, behind the actual outside of the eyeball, and it's inside the eyeball, and it's a lens, and it's made up of cells that are mostly protein, but it can't shed those cells. Any other part of your body can shed cells and get rid of it. Because you have this big blind spot in the center of your eye, and that's the way the eye is designed, where you don't see nothing in the actual center. As these cells die in the lens, they move to the center. Now, once they get beyond your blind spot, they start to affect your vision, and that causes a cataract where you can't see. So the only way to fix that is to remove the lens and replace it with another.
Right. So we talked a lot about this, and of course anything to do with your eyes, and some people had talked to me about LASIK eye surgery and whatnot, but I was not a candidate for that type of surgery because I have astigmatism, and that was the primary concern with my vision. So I've worn glasses, not full time, but from the time I was about 12 years old. And
you going to say how long ago that was?
No. As a matter of fact. Anyway, Daniel and I had talked about this procedure, which he does now on a completely outside of
private.
Alberta Health Services. It's a private surgery in his own clinic. But it's called Refractive Lens Exchange. And he has taken a lot more education with regard to this specific type of surgery, and he is world renowned for this now. So anyway, we talked about it, and he thought that I would be a candidate, and I was really, I don't know, will my age affect anything, this kind of stuff. It's not like I'm 80, but
here's the thing is that it's it was a totally optional surgery. Socialized healthcare in Canada, which only idiots hold up to the sun as being a great thing. It's not. But socialized healthcare would never ever have corrected her eyes.
No.
All socialized healthcare would do is if you had a cataract and couldn't see through it anymore, they replace it, and they put in a $60 lens. Honest to God, I didn't think that a lens you put in your eye could be $60, but yes, they put in a $60 lens, and if you need to wear glasses after that to correct your vision, that's fine. What Sandi had was right from when she was young was that her lens was not in the right place. It's similar to a parallax in a scope. The reticle and the focal plane didn't land in the same spot, and so like here was her lens and her focal was happening here. When you get the right lens in there and the right focal length, boom, they're together, and then you don't need glasses. So Sandi was never going to qualify for socialized eye care. And
eye correction.
That's right. Yeah. So it was always a private situation. That's kind of where we talked about buying youth, is that you get to buy some of your youth. It costs money.
Yes, but where I was going also with this is just, from an age perspective, one of the things that Dr. Senecal and I had talked about was, you're a healthy person, whatever your age, and very much like many other things in your life, you're not getting any younger, and you're not likely getting any healthier. Some people do, but you're not likely to get healthier. So why not do a surgery like this that gives you back your vision at a time when you are more well prepared for healing and can enjoy having the vision restored. So that's what I did. So that was it was just a little over a year ago now that I had that done. So now I don't wear glasses anymore. I don't fog up when I come into a cold house. I don't have cold glasses sitting on my face. I can enjoy a lot of things that it's not that they weren't enjoyable before, but that you just don't have to think about it. It took me several weeks to stop reaching for my glasses when I got out of the shower. Things like that, or looking for your glasses and realizing, oh yeah, you don't need them, and now the only glasses I wear are sunglasses. So that's pretty cool too.
That's cool, and it's it was similar to like when I went private surgery for my hip. Some people give me heck for having spent the money, but you know,
It's
I've
quality
said,
of life.
well, and I've said over and over again, you don't have the same phone, you don't have the same truck. You know, I mean, you and if we could afford to do an upgrade, you know, you had your eyes done, and look at the quality, how it's changed your life.
Well, it has, and so many other people have done it as well. A very good friend of ours, she had the surgery done here just this summer, and was just blown away by the professionalism, the people in the clinic. But again. And not to take anything away from healthcare workers, because it's a tough job and it weighs on you. But this particular place is it's all about the professionalism and the experience of the client or the patient,
The customer, and that's important.
and it is important. So, you know, if that's something that is of any interest to you, by all means reach out, because I can give you more information. But Dr. Senecal is he's one of the best in the world at this. He's only one of two in Western Canada that does this kind of surgery.
I actually put a segment in one of the Trapping Inc. shows last year.
For season 10.
Yeah, it was
one of the later ones.
Episode 11 or 12 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it showed, because I got to go in when she had the surgery done. And it's about 14, 15 minutes an eye.
Yeah.
And she's awake for it. She didn't take an Ativan to relax.
Well, but even our son, who's a paramedic, said, "Were you awake for this, Mom?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Mom, really?" And I went, "You don't feel anything." Dr. Senecal has a quiet, calm voice, and he talks you through the entire thing. He's just talking to you. And remember to watch that light. If he's working on my right eye, there's 3 blobs of light. Watch the one on the furthest left. Keep focused on that one as much as you can focus, because you can't see anything other than those 3 blobs of light, and there is absolutely no pain.
He would be the perfect guy to be the lead man on a bomb squad.
Yeah,
because he'd be sitting there talking away, and he says, "Oh my God, he cut the wrong wire. Now we should all run." You know,
maybe not. Anyway,
and nobody would know whether he was serious or not, because he's so calm and quiet.
He's a spectacular human. I will say,
Yeah.
He's one of a kind. So yeah, that was one of the other things we did since we talked last.
There's a lot, but I mean, when you're just trying to hit the high points, I guess the biggest stuff was the homesteading. We learned some hard lessons about bees. I'm back into bees, but I lost all of my colonies. Because we had a really warm winter last winter, the varroa mites were active all winter, which usually they're not. Yeah. And so they were active all winter, and they wiped out all my stuff, and so I started over again. I'm doing some new treatments to help get I've got 4 hives again, and hopefully I'll get them through the winter. We did get 100 and some pounds of honey, and which is better than nothing.
Yeah. We're not a commercial.
No.
So we give it to family and friends who always appreciate the pure honey, because of course that's all it is. We don't. Lots of times in some of the stores, or some of the brands of honey, I should say, it doesn't have to be pure honey to be called pure honey. It
can be 23% corn syrup.
Yeah.
And still be classified as pure honey.
If you know anything about corn syrup, you know how bad it is for you.
Oh my God, there's nothing worse than it. So that's awful that way. Our garden has been spectacular. Yeah. We're really getting that down.
And then
we've moved into a lot more of fruit trees.
Yes. And planted a bunch of different types of apple trees this year.
Had to cover them in to defend against the moose and the deer. Because do they love apples?
They love trees.
Yeah.
So they'll slurp the moose especially will slurp the leaves off of anything.
Yeah.
So we've done that, but this year also we did pheasants, or you did pheasants,
Yes.
and that was something new.
Going to go into it bigger next year. I'm building a second pen right now.
So the Alberta Conservation Association bought 56
Yeah.
of our. So anyway, it's very new. Pheasants don't do well in the wild. I was telling the president and CEO of our pheasant exploits at I think it was our March. No, it must have been our June meeting. And I said, well, I think we lost like 20 something one night because one of our
18.
Oh.
I had a weak breaker that I didn't know about. You got to keep them heated for the first month, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
You got to keep them heated.
Depending on when you get them in the weather.
And if the heat goes out, which is what happened, my heat lamps went out because I had a weak breaker in the brake panel and shut off, and so then they crowd one on top of the other, and the ones on the bottom smother, and we lost 18 in one night.
So I was saying this to Todd, and he said, oh, well, that's a lot better. It's too bad that you lost them, but it's a lot better. They have a 5% survival rate in the wild. So we got 100 chicks. 3 were dead on arrival.
Yeah.
They had, because they just come packaged in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
But same thing had happened with some of them. And those 3 were flat when they got to us.
But it's kind of remarkable. They're born on one day, and they're picking them up at the airport in Edmonton the next day.
Yeah.
Like for them to only have 3 of them flattened is actually kind of remarkable.
Well, and so, we were new to this too, but we've heard all kinds of horror stories from people who have raised them, and they've ended up with maybe 15 or 20 to release at the end of the day. And we had 56 that left, and then there was four more that were, so we ended up with a 60% survival rate. Yeah. And we kept the hens, and we just used them for our own consumption.
And they were good.
Yeah. So that was something new. We had we had more than 4 turkeys, but we kept 4 hen turkeys this year because they actually do lay eggs, and our daughter-in-law is just a wizard at finding markets for eggs and whatnot.
Birds.
And birds. So, but now we have, I think 23 ducks. Last year we had 6. So we bought a very good incubator and did our own turkeys, ducks, chickens.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of Brahmas and Australopes, and the hatch rate was good. We're trying to find something that produces a lot of eggs.
Yeah. Because we have a very solid market for farm fresh eggs. Because
we don't feed corn and we don't feed soy.
Right.
People don't want corn or soy in their diet anymore, and they don't want their food eating the corn or soy, and you can't blame them.
Yeah.
Soy is terrible.
Again, it's what's available, and it's just not something that you can find in the grocery stores, right? Because and they're fresh. I mean, what people buy when they buy from us is an egg that is maybe not even a week old for our regular customers.
It might be, if they get a dozen of them, they might be a day old. Because we're getting a couple dozen eggs a day. But you take the average egg, but if you buy eggs at Costco or Walmart or whatever, that average egg is over 30 days old by the time you get it.
And it's partially frozen to ship them.
Yeah, to ship they partially freeze them.
Yeah. Just because they ship better for that. But
there's going to be a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about it.
We need to get trapping.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit antsy here.
No. Hard to imagine.
All right. I hope you've enjoyed our time and catching up a little bit here, and we're going to see more up-to-date stuff happening soon. I'm even hoping to start getting back some guests on that kind of stuff.
Awesome.